email list. And you were saying something about knowing how to ask other people. Well, why don't you just ask us? Well, all you have to do is ask questions. It's that easy. Yeah. Just ask questions and we'll answer. That's easy. It's easy to do.
Well, we need your help to get out. Believe me, we asked quite a few people. Some people didn't want. I didn't ask you. No, I didn't know how to get a hold of you. But I actually tried. I think I contacted Autism Community Training, trying to get information about, because you run, don't you run?
Yeah, I do. I run a coffee meet. The next one's Saturday, June the 2nd. Wendy's from 2 to 5 p.m.
Okay. Well, please give us your contact information. We didn't have it. And
oh, yeah. Okay. I'll be more than happy to give it to you.
That's great. Thank you. Yeah.
On Broadway, right by the SkyTrain, diagonally across from the Starbucks, and it's also by the 9 and the 99B line, and the 15 can be as well for those who access public transit.
So it's June 2nd, what's that?
2 to 5 p.m.
Great, we need that. Yeah.
That's a great resource. Anyone else? Oh, do you want me to come back to you? Okay.
Do you want to read one?
Yeah, these are, I'll start with this one. This is a general question. It's not directed to anyone specific, but it says, is there a relation between autism and the bipolar spectrum? Does anyone want to answer that? I'm looking at you.
You're looking at, is this working? There is a history behind this question. So an American child psychiatrist called Robert DeLong suggested maybe over 20 years ago that possibly autism is what he called a forme frustrée of bipolar disorder. In other words, it was on a spectrum with bipolar disorder, and that claim sparked quite a bit of research looking at relatives of people with autism spectrum disorders. The thinking was that if autism and bipolar disorder were related, then you should see a higher rate of bipolar disorder in relatives of people with ASD than in the general population. And really no study has substantiated that claim. As quite a few people on the panel have mentioned, people with ASD are particularly prone to depression, in part because of their experiences, but possibly also for genetic reasons, because although bipolar disorder isn't elevated amongst relatives, depression is. So the stronger link seems to be with depression rather than the other aspect of bipolar disorder, which is hypomania or mania.
Thank you.
I'm a mother that is just reaching barely the acceptance phase of her 10-year-old boy's diagnosis. That's why I was the lady in the audience crying throughout most of this. So I need a little bit of hope before I go. But I am wondering, because I'm entering middle school, which now I'm scared, I'm wondering, it's sad, and I think it's an overall sadness that we have to address the child with ASD as opposed to, you know, okay, change your behaviors. I want everyone else's behaviors changed, of course. I want more acceptance. Do you think educating the school system in a grand, like, sense of an assembly would benefit your child or all children, or could that hurt your child? I'd like to get up on a soapbox and say, rah, 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 acceptance, and this is who these children are, how special they are. But I'm afraid it'll backfire against me. Can I take that?
Yeah.
Welcome to the team. That can work a number of different ways. I remember when Zach was in grade think it was grade 4 or 5, there was a sort of a outreach community group that was almost like a group of actors. Yeah, okay, they were wonderful, but I brought them into the class to help. Are you guys familiar with what we're talking about? Friend to friend? Yes, okay. They had the glasses to help them figure out what it was like to do. Fabulous program in theory. The effects after the teasing elevated because the kids got a better perspective as to what it was in that school environment. Zach was not in mainstream school through his elementary years. I had him in parochial school, small one. Class sizes were much better. Academics were higher. I thought it was a better environment for him. The private schools don't necessarily have the same tools that the public schools do, so there's different ways to go. If you can help support the schools to bring in whatever you can to help educate the teachers, first of all, I think sometimes giving the students a better understanding as a whole is a good thing. I mean, you educate the kids about peanut disorders. You educate the kids about a whole bunch of other things because they're life-threatening, and not realizing that kids on the spectrum, when they're exposed to teasing on a regular basis for years and years, that's life-threatening too, on a different level. And I know with Zach, with him, as I say, it's the middle years that are the challenging years, and that's where you have to be so aware of your child. And you have to be so aware of making sure home is a sanctuary. Home is a place where they can be themselves. Because it's so hard to cope with the school every day. Like these kids, even to get up in the morning and go and deal with what they've got to deal with on a daily basis, because they're programmed to expect it. And they're in that, you know, that the walls are up and all the other kind of stuff already. And I think sometimes when we project that, that's what you get. And it's hard. It's really, really hard. And like all you can do, I think, in a lot of ways, is do the best that you can to help advocate for your child until they can advocate on their own, and be totally hyper aware of what kind of days they've had, and make sure they've had an opportunity to come down from it and give them a real safe landing spot. Okay. I don't know if that helps, but.
I'm going to take a bowl question, just to be fair. This person, a lot of the panel members talked about kind of this vicious cycle that can be at play for individuals with autism and bullying. And so someone asked about how individuals with ASD can kind of stop that cycle. And then suggested that maybe this is actually something that worsens with age because it becomes more hidden, so more under the surface. Can someone or a few of you address that point?
Sorry, Emily, the cycle, which...
I think, I'm just guessing, but you had talked about how, you know, individuals with ASD may exhibit behaviors that some people may kind of prey upon, which sets them off, which rewards the bullying, and so on. So kind of how can that cycle, how can someone step in to redirect those behaviors? And do you think that maybe it worsens with age because it becomes a bit hidden? Less obvious, I guess.
So I think the best strategies are usually very simple ones. In other words, one needs some hard facts about what it is that the child does that draws attention to themselves or precipitates bullying. And one also needs to know how the child responds. And then, as with many other aspects of behaviour, it's helping the child to gradually change their behaviour. With ASD, it's not usually the case that you can tell someone to stop something and they'll stop it. We know that the way to change behaviour in individuals with ASD is often by very small steps, and therefore it can help to have a psychologist or a specialist teacher involved who can help the individual understand what their role, if you like, in the situation is, and help them to change their behaviour, to minimise it. So I don't think there's anything magic about this. It's the same sort of approach that we take to changing all sorts of behaviour.
Yeah, one of the other things that I read in the literature on bullying was that similar to the literature on resilience for maltreated or traumatized children, is that having a mentor of some kind, excuse me, and this could take different forms, but having someone that they can confide in or that they feel good with, that they can have a good relationship with, might sometimes buffer some of those experiences. So even though they're going through difficult periods, that if they can have a good interaction and a good relationship with someone else, that somehow that can sort of balance things a little bit.
That's great, thank you.
Okay, this is going to be sort of a general comment. Through my experience, because I've had kids with, ASD, one of them was bullied. At this point, he's now in high school, but he knows how to respond verbally because he's very strong verbally, and that has helped him a lot. But one of the things that I'm encountering is that there happens to be a very general lack of understanding of autism in our educational system. And you get responses, responses from administrators and teachers that basically I'm look at them and I can't believe I'm hearing what they say. Yes. For instance, they regard an IEP as a privilege and not as a right for the student. I'm not joking. They come and tell me that they give me the opinion that that's somehow a privilege, that I have an IEP for this individual. And there's other things that I have encountered that tells me, hey, we got to get this educational system corrected, because here I am as a parent constantly fighting, and so far I don't think there's anybody in the VSB who really advocates for me. Is there? I don't think so, but there should be. And I don't know, maybe if organizations get all together and say, hey, we've got to change this. We've got to get the information out, because sometimes the Ministry of Education will get something and then it never gets passed on, or it never is given the importance that it needs to be given. Mm-hmm. And that's, my opinion, and I think, we have to do something to educate the people who, make comments to your kids and make comments to me that I just look at them and I say, I can't believe you are teaching my kid. So that's what my opinion is, if people...
Well, you won't be surprised to learn that they actually did a study with special education teachers who taught children with ASD and asked them anonymously how much knowledge they felt they had, how prepared they felt they were to do the work that they were doing, and actually it was very low, and these were self-ratings. So the teachers themselves were rating themselves low on knowledge and expertise and evidence-based practice for working with the children that they were working with.
My kids are both in a regular program, and these are the teachers. They have no clue. I'm getting comments left and right, and I have to always defend them or say, excuse me, and then afterwards, they sometimes start not responding to you. It gets to the point. So there's, I'm starting to worry, hey, if I'm paying into this ministry, at least I would like to be represented, but we need to have a voice to say, hey, we're here, get someone, please.
I definitely understand how hard that is, because my sister entered high school in September and just had her IEP in April. So you can imagine a child going from elementary school to high school with zero information in her file. So you get calls during the day like, oh, why doesn't Morgan want to get on the bus? We're going swimming. She loves swimming. Well, you failed to tell her you were going swimming. She thinks she's going home. She doesn't think she's going swimming where she wants to go, right? She doesn't want to go home. So I definitely understand how hard that is, and we've found a lot of comfort in the principals at our schools. I know in elementary school, once we got the principal involved, she became very passionate about being an advocate for my sister. My sister's SCA was away a bit too, and that principal would go and get my sister her hot lunch when she was supposed to have it. And definitely you have to fight though. It took a long time of fighting to get into that principal's office and get her on board with my sister's program, and it's tough. But there's definitely some organizations I know on Facebook as well that can help you with experiences that they've had and that kind of thing, with just like getting involved. But yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I agree.
Hi, my question is for the mom. Sorry, your name again was?
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth. My name is Natasha.
Hi, Natasha.
Hi. I have a son. He's 6.5. His diagnosis came at 3, although at 7 months I knew there was something different about him. And I agree with you when you say that autism, to me, it's not a disability. He just processes his environment differently.
Exactly.
That's the way I look at it. But he is 6, and I've noticed since the end of kindergarten last year a steady decline in his social relationships. He's not really being bullied, but he is being ignored.
Excluded.
And there's a little bit of name calling. So he comes home in tears, doesn't understand what's going on. I'm getting tired of explaining who my son is to parents. It's tiresome. And he's only 6, and even tonight I told him I was coming to a forum on autism, and he's like, well, what's that? What's autism? And my question is, like, how do I sit him down and explain how do I explain to him who he is? He's hearing this term being flung around. He's starting to realize that he's different, but he's very rigid, and in his brain it's like, why don't you get on board with me?
Exactly.
And he just doesn't get it. He doesn't see himself, and he does mean well. And so the latest development, which is really heartbreaking, is that he is losing friends. And I've had parents call the school, and they're trying to attach the label of bully to my son now, and he really isn't. He's a very soft-hearted boy, but he when he gets to that point when he's being pushed and he's about to have that meltdown, his words are his weapon, and he can be pretty verbally nasty, and he's big for his.
Survival.
Right, and he's very big for his age. He looks like he's about 8, and he uses his strength, because he's got great strength, to his advantage. And I've actually seen him get physical with other kids, which is really heartbreaking, because that's not who he is. And I'm just wondering, like, how do I don't know what to do. The school isn't really, they're listening, but they're not really listening. I feel like I'm being pacified a lot, like they're just telling me what they think I want to hear just to get me to go away. They call me tenacious, but I know it's very tongue-in-cheek. They're being insincere. And I'm about to freak out, really. I mean, my son is going into grade 2, and things are just going downhill, and I feel like I'm in, you know when you go inside of a bank or something and they've got the glass partition up and you're trying to talk to somebody, and you're yelling and screaming and they can't hear you, and you're banging on. That's how I feel, and I'm about to freak out.
Okay.
So I just wanted to know, how do I talk to my son and let him know what's going on with him, and even other parents? How do I don't know what to say to them anymore. I'm just tired of explaining my son to people.
I feel your pain. I've lived your pain. There is light at the end of the tunnel, believe it or not. You take a deep breath, and this is your child, and I think as a parent, it's up to us to help advocate as best we can. I know a great tool that I had for Zach. I don't know if any of you others have seen it. It was a wonderful tool I had for him just after he was first diagnosed, to help explain. It's a wonderful book called Asperger's Huh? And if you don't have a copy of it, or you can't get a copy of it, I have a copy. I'm happy to share with you. Fabulous, fabulous book. There's another wonderful book called The Brain Train, having to do with just understanding what goes into your body and what charges your engine. My guy was, like I say, a train guy, so anything having to do with trains, it worked fabulous. But just to get him to understand that what you put in and how you charge up your engine and how you work, you know, on a very, as I say, Zach was diagnosed at about the same age, and part of where where we had really good experiences was, as I say, advocating with the teacher, and even before you get into the classroom environment, having that opportunity to sit down and dialogue and engage. And hey, and as I was mentioning earlier, you got to reinvent the wheel every bloody year. You have to. Even with high school, I mean, Zach has the same IEP now, graduating in grade 12, as he had when he was in grade 8. It has not a word on it has changed. Not one word. And that's having these meetings with and working with and doing all the other stuff. It doesn't change. It doesn't. So you need to do whatever you can to help interpret. I remember when Zach was in grade 3 or grade 4, and part of his challenge was he had a really difficult time working in group environments or working with teams or working with whatever. And I remember there was one class project they were working on was to try to, no, maybe it was grade 5, where they had to try to design an alternate society. Okay, teams of whatever, and they had the name of the country or whatever. It was just learning about communities. And Zach always likes to be the control freak. He doesn't want to go with anybody else's opinions because his opinions are right, not anybody else's. And he had a wonderful idea because he wanted to invent this culture called Aspergia. And it was his own idea of what it was like to be from this other planet called Aspergia and being on Earth. And it was a phenomenal, whole, wonderful, I get goosebumps when I think about it, but just his perspective, because he knew, okay, I'm different, but I'm here, and I'm here to learn what it's like to be human. And that really helped us, because I was working as a bit of an interpreter for him, rather than me trying to teach him, he was teaching me different ways of looking at things and different ways to appreciate things and different ways to experience things. And I think as a parent, it's our responsibility to understand that. You can't just say, this is the way it's got to be done and this is how to do it. They've got a different perspective that needs to be listened to because they're bringing is such incredible value from an alternate perspective. Asperger's, and brain train. And I will give you my card. And the other mom who's here as well, like anybody, whatever. I've got a library at home. And you know, happy to share. Also some tools I think that are wonderful is getting involved in on a number of different social groups if you can. I found when Zach was younger, going through the, what was the group out by, Zach used to call it airport school, out by Boundary Bay, there's the Child Development Center. And yeah, exactly. They had some different social networkings that they put together with the kids. It was in a supervised environment with wonderful EAs. I was blessed with Zach's school, being Zach was one of the first children with a spectrum diagnosis in his school. And I kind of pulled a couple of strings, and I managed to get an EA who I knew was taught right, who was almost a family friend, who was assigned to Zach from grade 1 all the way through to grade 7. And she stayed with the school specifically for Zach. So that was a great tool for us. I don't know how much, as I say, I think that was pretty unique one, which we managed to do, but you got to grab whatever you can and use it. Any tool that you can, grab it, run with it, and what works today may not work tomorrow. And what works tomorrow might not work the next day. But you got to have a big, huge, giant tool basket and keep, you know, you can't. Oh, totally, totally. Whether it's tongue-in-cheek or not, damn it, you should see me when I get going. Hope that helped. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say one thing to that lady there. And I'm going to say it the right way. Screw them. But, you know, you got the right idea. Who cares what they think?
It's your right.
And you know what? I'll be honest. I'll be very honest with you. Part of the thing, they're probably looking at you. You know, you probably wouldn't. I would probably get more respect than you. You're a person of color. Yeah. I'll be honest. You probably get less. You're probably born in Canada.
Yeah, that's a whole other.
But I'm saying like that. That's another thing you've got to fight.
Yes, and we're in a Christian school, and I'm a single mother, so there's just.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a full-time student on top of it also. I'm dealing with a lot. Yeah.
You can do it. You can do it.
And I took him to my workplace one day and I introduced him to my coordinator. She
I think that's part of the challenge, just as a mom. And I'm only going from my own perspective, but part of the challenge is because they don't look different. Everybody expects they're just going to fit in normally, and they are. It's just a different perspective, but that's part of the challenge. Is that, and I think that's part of with the picking and you were talking about that, almost the thing on the school ground with the, oh God, how do you even, the pecking order, I guess, because it's almost like the runt of the litter kind of thing. They all look the same, but they haven't got the same tools. They have different tools, and we got to help nurture those tools that they have.
Okay. Parents of children with autism blow me away. I don't have any kids. I'm a grad student at UBC in the special ed department, and I work with adults actually mostly right now. So those parents are still going. It's crazy. So you guys are awesome. A couple comments. One, that Asperger's Handbook is at Odin Books out in Broadway. It's like $10 or something. It's this thick. It's awesome. I wanted to comment on the mom's comment in the back about the whole special education and the teachers not knowing anything, and maybe Dr. Bailey can help us out with bridging some gaps. A lot of the teachers in the school system got their degrees at UBC in the education program there. And UBC has a really great special education program, but guess what? They're not linked. The Bachelor of Education program wants nothing to do with the special education department at UBC. It's brutal. It's amazing, yeah. There's wonderful courses on autism, wonderful courses on behavior analysis and behavior assessment and social skills and communication. They're not linked. Teachers aren't required to take any of the courses. It's not part of the degree program. The leaders of those programs are fighting to make it happen, but they can't. Maybe Dr. Bailey can be a bridge there in some way. I don't know, but it's brutal. It's just in that you're not in either department, and you are you have that autism focus. Maybe you can help these guys, link together in some way, because it's unbelievable that there's no connection there.
I think it would be a mistake to assume that this is a problem specific to Canada. So throughout the world, individuals who are educated as mainstream teachers are usually not taught anything about children who fall outside the normal range. In other words, although many countries advocate a policy of inclusion, they're not giving teachers the tools they need to deal with children who are not typically developing. My experience is that if a school has a child or several children with ASD, by and large the staff are desperate to know about autism, because very often they realise that they're not dealing adequately with the situation. And I think in response to your comment about should you go in and do an assembly, my advice would be someone should go in and talk to the staff as a group. So I've done that in many schools, but probably better it's a professional rather than a parent. But most teachers, when they know they don't know something, are keen to learn. But as you point out, there are all sorts of organisational barriers. But we can't really include children in mainstream if we're not giving teachers the skills they need to teach children who have autism, because they learn in a different way.
One statistic I heard while I was in school was that this was a couple of years ago, in the school system right now, 65% of the kids in the mainstream school system are either have special needs or a learning disability. So teachers right now in university are learning to teach less than half the kids. It's unbelievable. And I had one other question, and again, this is for the moms, I guess, and for others. The moms and the dads end up really being, the best teachers in a lot of ways for these guys and gals. And I'm wondering what folks have thought. I've worked with a few folks first just to comment on how things seem to get a little better when they get out of high school and get into college. What are folks' thoughts on homeschooling? I've worked with a few folks that have been homeschooled. They took them right out of school, did homeschooling all the way to grade 12, then went to university, then learned some social skills, and life seemed a lot better. They just avoided bullying altogether. I know it's a huge commitment for parents to do that, but I'm just wondering what folks' thoughts are on that.
There's a guy in the back that wants to say something.
Oh, okay. Oh, well,
I think he wants to add to the question.
Do you want to add to the question?
Oh. Yeah.
Well, I don't know what to share exactly, but I have experienced homeschooling. I actually work for a homeschooling-based school. It's called distributed learning, and many families choose to homeschool. We have 200 special needs kids in our school, and 50% of them have autism. That means we have 100 kids in this province in our school, and families choose to homeschool. Many people find it's better because I see school now as a teacher, as an artificial institution that actually is damaging to children. I've come to that conclusion. Because what is normal about putting 30 kids in a room, sitting 5 hours a day, and what's being taught to them is irrelevant. And then on the playground, they're unsupervised, and they're supposed to socialize, and you call that normal. It's not normal. And I believe that families are the center of caring for children, and that's why I've changed what I do, and I'm passionate about it.
I can sum up a lot of this by this poem I wrote back on Thursday, February the 24th, 2002, called Asperger Poem. It seems that other people don't care that Asperger's is everywhere. People who just don't seem to fit in and are told they belong in the trash bin. My brain works differently from yours. We both take different, separate doors. Sounds are much louder for me. Mere baby crying is not ecstasy. Textures and tastes wreak havoc with my system. What you tolerate is torture in addition. Making friends is a pure mystery for me. It's like figuring out the birds and the bees. Asperger's takes over my life. I've been cut into two with a knife. Sometimes I'm good and know how to behave, and then my other half takes over with a wave. Sometimes I'm calm and quiet as a squire. Quiet and calm as a squire. Other times I'll rage out like an out-of-control fire. Insignificant actions, gestures, and words will make me angrier than a flock of wild birds. Asperger's, I sometimes wonder why me, yet this is the best way to be.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That was wonderful.
A series of short stories and poems at Amazon.com, and my friend who wrote 2 books on Asperger's, which I'm in, called Glass Half Empty, Glass Half Full by Christopher Mitchell, and his Asperger's and Mindfulness, Taking Refuge in a Buddha, another really good book, and I'm also in this book as well.
Yeah. Cool.
Those are probably great resources. Thanks for sharing those. Yeah.
Because we're on the topic of like teachers and their abilities to like teach special need children, my dream is to become an elementary teacher and work with special needs children and to like fix some of these problems that they have with the education system. But like for my future reference and maybe like other people as well, like how, like what should the teachers actually do that can actually help the special needs children, other than just like those simple stuff, just like helping like one-on-one, I guess, but like maybe just to like spread the word, like, or something like that.
Well, I guess you yourself would have to have a pretty deep understanding of the kind of special needs individuals you want to advocate for. So I would recommend, if you're really interested in that, to maybe get like a certificate in applied behavior analysis or something like that. that give you a stronger platform, I think, to be able to speak for those people.
I'm not in the education program. I'm actually in psychology program.
Where are you taking psychology?
SFU.
So you can do the, we can always talk after too, but you can take the ABA concentration at Douglas. SFU offers that, and that's excellent. You get SFU credits for that, and they transfer as upper division psych credits, so you can graduate with a psych degree with ABA concentration. But we can talk more after if you want about that.
Okay, so I just want to let people know that it is 9, so I'll probably take one more question, and then I think Grace has a few closing words. No? Yes? Yeah, okay.
Many people said that we are from another country or another planet. I think that the human's action is very awkward. I don't know how can I follow it. And sometimes I'm crying, sometimes anxious. And if I want to deal the anxious, I think it's difficult to deal. Actually, I want to try to deal it, but it's very difficult. I can't stop my mind.
But your mind is amazing.
Thank you. Do you want to, anyone have one more, or we can wrap it up? It's 9. Okay, do you want to?
Okay. So, I'm in the wrong side. I just wanted to leave you, Not working? It's okay. It's okay. It was an interesting quote that I came across that I think captures the kind of challenge that we're up against. And it was actually a quote from a journalist and author originally from the UK, but actually raised in the US. And he was recalling an incident of bullying back in his childhood. And it seemed, basically the message was, you know, yeah, it's good to say, you know, we want to stop bullying, or that, you know, we need to be aware that kids are being bullied and that this is not a socially acceptable thing. But that's all talk. What really needs to happen is that the society as a whole needs to come together and really take action and change their attitudes and perspectives as a whole in order for these things to change, right? So I think that's sort of the thing that we're doing here is one way to do it, is to come out in public and talk about it and exchange ideas and see, you know, what can we do as a group to move this forward. So I hope this has helped a little bit. And we promise you that we will continue to work on this. And maybe even we've actually discussed during the break, there might be some good research ideas that we can work on through the exchange that we've had here tonight. So if you have anything else that you wanted to say to us, please do contact us, send us an email, call us. Our information would have been up there, but somehow the computer's not working. You can Google us. Oh, it's at the front. Yes, Sarah has it right there at the front. So on your way out, you can contact us at the Autism Lab at SFU. Okay, thank you very much for coming out tonight.